It's great to be with you here tonight. TEDx Women Malta. This is a great platform for the visibility of women. And so I thought it worthwhile to spend some reflections, share some reflections with you on this topic. As you've been told, my name is Maria Brown. I'm a sociologist and a researcher. I lecture at the University of Malta for some years now, but I've done many jobs and worked in many contexts throughout my life. One of these contexts was selling weddings. I was a wedding sales manager, so I met many women and men and different people who used to come to me to organize their weddings. And this is a context as well where the visibility and invisibility of women, that is the organization of a wedding, is very gives a lot of food for thought. One such client that I remember very, very well, a bride-to-be, used to come for the meetings, the regular meetings that we used to have with her family, the family of her future husband, but she never spoke, rarely, barely uttering a word, often looking down. Occasionally she would stare into my eyes, and this used to confuse me. On the one hand, of course, I wanted to close the sale, I wanted to do my job, but on the other hand, I felt conflicted. One day, this woman came to the office, but this time she came alone. She came to pay the deposit for her wedding. And when I saw her walking in alone, I closed the office door, rolled down the blinds, sat in the chair next to her, and asked her, before you pay the deposit, are you sure you want to get married? True story. The story continues with the wedding actually taking place, and later on, a legal separation. And I know this because 20 years down the line, I meet this woman again in the lecture room. Yes, she remembered me. Yes, she remembered the deposit episode. Yes, she remembered I saw her beyond what was visible. And the visibility and invisibility of women is relevant not just in these private anecdotes, private life, but of course also in public, as we're discussing tonight. For example, in politics, research shows that in Parliament, for example, in the House of Commons in the United Kingdom, aggressive behavior is more encouraged. So Emma Crew, who is an ethnographer who published in 2018 about the reflections of men in the House of Commons, who said they relished the gladiatorial debates, whereas women were seen more adequate for the House of Lords, where the behavior expected is more courtly, and an aggressive approach is thought of as being more inappropriate, let's put it this way. And if we move to media from politics, although many a time these two are interrelated, in media, even seemingly innocent media content can, of course, reproduce a lot of gender inequalities. Examples. Welcome, Princess Yasmin. You have to get married to follow the law and the expectations of your society. But your reluctance to do so is causing your father, a male, lots and lots of concern. Resolution. You fall for the street rat who saves the day with his wit. Now, to be honest, I think that Yasmin in my life was a positive influence. For you see, I organized the weddings of many people, but personally, I never got married. Not because I did not meet the right person, but to be honest, marriage laws and the regulation, the interests of spouses, how they are regulated by law in Malta, gives me a lot of concern, but that's the topic for next time. But Yes, I caused my father many, many troubles, and he was concerned, just like Yasmin's father. And further research, well, only confirmed my concerns, because when I carried out research on financial literacy in Malta, amongst persons going through legal separation or divorce, some participants quoted figures around 20,000 euro, 40,000 euro, legal expenses to get separated or divorced. And of course, these expenses have to be incurred by men and women, irrespective of their gender or sex or sexual orientation. But it was also found through this research that women tended to suffer more from the financial hardships because often they would have had a career break or a break from their studies. And it is true also that many of these women would not have actually, stopped working entirely, but they would have worked at home, sometimes also in family businesses, unofficially, and thus jeopardizing their pensionable income. Let's take another example. This one saves to men. So at a visible, apparent level, it sounds more empowering, more promising. The first man is her father, but she saves him by taking upon her what was meant to be her father's fate. And the second man she saves is the beast. She saves him through love, and she frees him from his beastly behavior and the curse that made him a beast through love. Now, this is one other situation that makes me ask those Pandora's box questions, like the deposit and the wedding. Can the love of a woman or the love of a partner free the other partner from beastly behavior? Now, this would require a lot of research, because I know that love has a very strong power, but the evidence shows us that one of the most, if not the most, extreme beastly behavior, that is the killing of a woman by her intimate partner, is closely tied to the killing of women in general. So these figures here that I'm showing you are from the European Institute for Gender Equality, showing murders of women between 2014 and 2018. The dark blue line is the women killed between 2014 and 2018. The light blue line, which more or less follows exactly the same pattern, is the killing of women by their intimate partner. In other words, femicide. Now, we have to admit that in Malta, a lot of progress is being done in this area, and legislation about femicide has progressed. There were critiques of gender bias in this legislation, but as the National Commission for the Promotion of Equality rightly pointed out, it is true that the femicide law is not gender neutral. Reality is not gender neutral. The law shouldn't be either. And it's not only the question of gender neutrality or not gender neutrality. Today we move beyond. We have to move beyond, because even a gendered context is nuanced. In other words, if we go back to media, the way women are represented in media is also diverse. For example, some categories that came out from research: the matriarch, that is the strong, authoritative woman; the harpy, or the imp, generally a less ladylike woman, with all due respect, and honestly I mean it, because what is ladylike after all? And then another category would be the decoy, the person who would first start as a victim, but ultimately overcome all the difficulties and eventually thrive. The siren, who lures the man into poor men, the victimization of men. And I acknowledge, yes, that men can be victims, but we also have the stereotypes of the woman luring men into trouble or into a situation that they have to grapple with. And yes, we are in Malta, our sister island. This goes also, let's pay tribute to Calypso there, that kept Ulysses for 7 years in the cave. And another category is the witch, the maleficent, of the situation, the dangerous woman that you have to be careful from, and that is obviously depicted in a very negative light. And I would be trying to make invisible the elephant in the room here if, being in Malta, at this particular moment, I don't speak of someone who was also depicted as a witch, a woman that was also made invisible, at least physically. The journalist who was assassinated, Daphne Caruana Galizia. She was made invisible physically, perhaps, but every 16th of the month, a vigil is held in Malta's capital city, and those who feel comfortable with the idea, or those who want to advocate against this murder or for reforms in Malta, attend. Attendance to this vigil is a highly contested activity. And because I have a penchant for going beyond the visible, I trust that stays on the agenda. Because there are many tribalistic and partisan nuances to the event and to the story that, yes, should be explored further. But I show up at these vigils, and these are my reasons for showing up. Number one, I show up because I want to live in a society where people, including women, do not get bombed. I show up because I don't want to live in a society where people get bombed by the corrupt, particularly if these corrupt people are being facilitated by taxpayers. I show up because no family should go through what Daphne Caruana Galizia's family went through. No son should bid farewell to his mother because she has been made invisible by others. No son should smell the burning flesh of his mother. To conclude, what I am not saying, I'm not saying that Daphne Caruana Galizia's murder was a femicide. More research has to be done in that area. She was not killed by her intimate partner, but was she killed because she was a woman? I think there are nuances of misogyny that need to be explored. What I am not saying is that Malta has done nothing to advance women in public and private spheres. Let us take the recent reform of the gender corrective mechanism to enhance representation in Parliament. I spoke in favor of this reform many times, but unfortunately the way it was implemented, as opposed to the proposal, is that now it is relying solely on the gender corrective mechanism. What happens after the election? Funnily or not funnily enough, both parties in Parliament agreed to omit the part of the reform where parties are responsible to put more women on the ballot sheet. So yet again, in Malta, the onus was shifted from the political class to the taxpayer. What am I saying? I am saying that media ethics and media literacy are a responsibility of the state and of civil society, and we should invest much more in that. What I am also saying is that I am grateful. I am grateful because in my life I met many men and women who saw me the way I saw that bride-to-be, and who empowered me to see others in the same way, beyond the visible surface level. I am grateful to those women, and I trust that through these efforts, through our collaboration, more and more women will be made visible. Thank you.
Thank you.